theme to Agatha Christie's Poirot. And this is a hypnotic kind of tune. I mean, it just sucks you in. You hear the saxophone and piano in the beginning. It has a couple of really interesting things, and it makes a great little guitar piece. I'm not doing it in the key they did it in. I figured I'm going to put this in E minor. It's going to work really, really well on the guitar in the key of E minor. It has a lot of unusual things. We've got some harmonics. There's an odd ending, a pretty tricky little technique that just occurred to me as I was putting this together. Hear what's going on there? I'll explain it when we get to it, but there's something really unusual. Dotted rhythms. This is something that people have a hard time with. We talk about swing rhythm a lot. Do, 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 where the beats are split into thirds. And this played in swing. That would be in swing. What we have instead is a dotted eighth and a 16th. That eighth note, or the 16th, is even later than the swing eighths would be. So we need to keep that rolling in there. We have a trill that is going to be really hard. And if you haven't done that very much yet, it's going to create some new calluses and rip off some skin. So we'll talk about that as we get into, well, in the next segment where we talk about section A. Anyway, a lot of other kind of cool things that are going to happen in here. Now, I got hooked on this a few years ago when I started watching the series, and it just, you binge watch a few shows, and pretty soon the tune is stuck in your head. And so just started messing around with it on guitar and put up a snapshot of it just recently. And so I thought, here we go with the lesson. So without rambling on too much more, let's start taking a look at the music to Poirot. The intro is really just the same little repeated figure that we kind of hear the piano sort of do in the original, I think. I haven't listened to the original in a long time as I'm doing this together. But just to kind of set the mood, similarly to what we hear in there, we're hearing a whole bunch of F sharps to E's, starting on the fifth string, ninth to seventh frets. And then we hear it in different registers, or different ranges. So that sets the mood for the opening, the A section, which we'll get to in just a minute. So the thing I like to do here is, when you do that pull off from the F sharp to E there, so that it doesn't sound like this, I'm playing the E and the bass at the same time, and you don't want that to happen. Now what happened right there was, when I pulled this F sharp off, I hit the D string at the same time. Well, so we need to mute that string with our first finger, having it on not clean, so that I've got my first finger holding down the E at the 7th fret here, but the D string is dead, so that if I pull off and hit it, I don't hear that. Now, right there I heard the G string because I went really far, but that's okay if the G rings because it's in tune with what we're hearing here. It's really an E minor chord. So make sure your first finger is muting the D string as it's pressing down on the E on the A string. That's what we have happening in the B section. A bunch of tricky little things here, some slightly awkward chords to get to. But we've got the pickup of the F sharp at the end of the second ending. I go with my first and second fingers now for the E chord. And we've got the dotted eighth rhythm again. And a straight eighth the second time. Same thing happens in the second half of the measure. And then you've got a little F chord here hanging on. Use your third finger now as a guide up to this chord at the 4th and 6th frets. It's E in the bass though. And now, so this is kind of an awkward one to grab, but really easy once you get there, because the next note is there on the 4th fret of the B string, the G string. Now your fourth finger is kind of the guide to what we're going to have right there. So your little finger had been on the F, on the 6th fret of the B string. And then your third finger has to change strings, and we've got another little embellishment there, pulling off from E to D with your first and third fingers there. This is another case where your first finger, back here on the D, has to be touching the first string so you don't hear this. You don't want to hear that E in there, so make sure your first finger is killing the first string right here.